Who do you think about when you hear the first African American combat pilot? Most might say the Tuskegee Airmen, but this is not the case. The first true African American combat pilot was Eugene Bullard, who was born in 1895 and later in life contributed immensely to jazz music and helped spread it across Europe. Bullard grew up in Columbus, Georgia, in the Deep South, where from a very young age he experienced a lot of racism, including the attempted lynching of his own father when he was only 8 years old. He then made multiple escape attempts from home, and he eventually succeeded at the age of 11. When he finally ran away for the first time, or for the last time, he began working odd jobs throughout the South for several years, roaming all the way up to Virginia, where at the age of 16 he became a stowaway on a German merchant ship that was heading for Europe. During his time in Europe, he settled in the United Kingdom for a bit, doing performances as a jazz drummer, and eventually settled in Paris, France. He became a boxer in that time as well, and then joined the French Foreign Legion only a couple months into the war. When he joined the French Foreign Legion only a couple months into the war, while serving, he fought in the Battle of Verdun, including multiple other battles. But in the Battle of Verdun, he was injured during the battle, and he was hit by shrapnel. So during his recuperation, he met a French officer who helped him get into a gunnery school for aviation. With a fellow American, he made a bet that's worth over $60,000 today that he could become a pilot, not become a pilot. His friend didn't think he'd become a pilot, or his fellow American. In 11 months during that course, he then proved him wrong, becoming the first ever African American combat pilot. And during his 90 days as a combat pilot, he completed over 20 missions and got 2 unconfirmed kills. He was also given the name the Black Swallow of Death, and he painted on the side of his plane that all blood bleeds red, which is a reference to fighting America's racism and a reference to the Constitution. After having gotten into an altercation with a French officer, he was forced into a non-combat role. Many speculate and argue that it was due to the racism in the military at the time, including the Americans with forcing other militaries to not have mixed regiments to boost morale. Some argue that he hit the officer, but that is just a rumor. When he got back to Paris, he owned 2 nightclubs, was still a boxer and a jazz drummer, and he hosted a lot of influential people. Langston Hughes was one of them. He was a dishwasher at Bullard's club, and Josephine Baker was also in his circles and frequented the club as well. And Louis Armstrong played and frequented his clubs. Ernest Hemingway was there as well, and he inspired a person in one of his novels, Off Bullard. While being in these influential circles, he actually mentored a lot of young, popular jazz artists at the time. Those artists include Sidney Bechet and Ada Bricktop Smith. He became a very well-known figure in Paris with his clubs. He often played jazz in his clubs mostly, and sometimes played himself. Largely helped the expansion of jazz in France and Europe even during the 20s and 30s. And then in 1940, a couple years after, or a year into World War II, he was hit by shrapnel again because he joined the military and was a spy. And he then fled to the United States, his birth country. He experienced a lot of racism when he got back, including in 1949 when he was at a Paul Robeson concert, where upwards of 200 people were injured and attacked by a white mob of white people and police. He was knocked down and injured. No arrests were made. No charges. No nothing. He then was a elevator operator for the Rockefeller Center, where in 1959 he was actually interviewed in that same building, I'm pretty sure, on the Today Show, where I can only find pictures. The actual video has been unfortunately lost. But that same year he was awarded the Légion d'honneur. I'm butchering that because it's French, but it's a medal, and he in 1960 was given a special guest to meet. He was invited as a special guest to meet the president of France at the time, who was Charles de Gaulle. A year later, unfortunately, he passed away from cancer, stomach cancer to be exact, and left behind a legendary legacy. It is incredibly sad that he's been largely forgotten, and even America didn't acknowledge him until very recently, or 90s, 2000s, and gave him a statue, and made him an official pilot. But he helped foster many careers and had multiple hotspots for jazz music, and I think that's where he really impacted this world, is with jazz music and helping it expand and creating these hotspots for these people to create art and help spread jazz. So how can we make sure that he doesn't get lost to time? I think everybody should do their own research if they have time and look into them themselves. But if not, just let everybody know who the first pioneer or the first African American combat pilot, Eugene Bullard. And here's some jazz music.